Hello, grade 8. Since we've been having our passion project presentations, we've been missing our history classes. I thought we could have our first history lesson about World War I as an ed puzzle. So please write down your date, today's date, the title, and your two LOs into your notes. Remember to underline your title with a ruler. So today is going to be a quick introduction to World War I. As you know, that's our new topic, and hopefully you have your title page done for this topic. There are two things we're going to discuss in this ed puzzle. One is the importance of this war as a historical topic. Why should we study it in schools? And secondly, I would like us to begin to consider the impact of the war. We're going to view some photographs. I want you to think about what those photographs of the war shows us. So you can copy this into your notes. Remember, pause the video at any time. You can watch the video and then come back and write down notes. That's all up to you, how you want to do this. Okay. A new type of war. So World War I, which takes place in 1914 to 1918, maybe I'll write that down for you. It is really a new type of war for the 20th century, and many historians call it the first modern war or the first total war, which I'll come to that in just a second. Last year in American history, we talked a lot about wars like the Civil War, where we have men who are marching up, we have cavalry, we have men in these like immaculate uniforms who stand in a line, they shoot at each other. And this war, World War I, is nothing like any of those wars or those battles. So it is going to be really the first modern war. And that is because there is new technology available. And that includes, you'll see a list right here on this slideshow. Please copy these into your notes. We have these brand new guns. We're going to talk a lot about a new type of gun, which is called a machine gun. And I'm sure you know all about that because you guys play tons of video games. And these allow you to shoot tons of bullets at a really rapid pace. So guns are going to change the shape of war. And it no longer takes 9 seconds to load one bullet. You can have this huge sort of chain of bullets that you feed through a gun. And that's going to change the war. We have chemical warfare. So things like mustard gas can really take down a lot of troops at once. And this is the first time it is used in a war. We have tanks. Tanks are new technology at this time. They don't work so well yet, but both sides use tanks in World War I. Secondly, attack aircraft. As you can see in this picture, there are planes. Not only are planes used, but things like zeppelins and balloons are used to drop shells or drop bombs on the other side. So we're going to see that. And for the very first time, we have submarines, or the Germans call them U-boats. And all these things sort of change the type of war and how war is fought. So that is going to have a huge impact. As I mentioned minutes ago, some historians call this the first total war. So last year when we were talking about American history, often it was Americans against the British. Sometimes the French were involved. In this war, World War I, is not going to be like that. As you can see in this map right here, these are all the countries in the world that were a part of this war. Take a look at that just for a second. Any country that does not have orange or purple was not in World War I. So you can see there's not many countries that are out of this war, that are not involved. It is important to note that at this time, places like Australia and Canada are colonies of other countries. Same with a lot of Africa. Actually, Most of Africa is controlled by European powers, but they are thrown into and forced into World War I. So for the first time, um, we have a total war where countries all across the world are involved. Hence the name World War. At the time, of course, it was known as the Great War because they didn't know that it would be followed by World War II. So the Great War involved so many countries. And of course, that means millions of people, mainly young men, those are soldiers at the time, who are killed and lose a lot of their lives. But there are people working at home because men are off fighting war. Who is going to go to work every day? A lot of women are feel the impact of World War One because they're forced to work. They have to go to work. They're also working in factories to make things like the bombs that are being used in this war. And of course, where the front lines are, where the trenches are, we have towns and cities that are just completely destroyed and they need to be rebuilt after the war. So this is the first time in history where so many countries all across the globe are affected because there may not have been battles in Australia, but men are taken away from their homes and they are fighting in places across Europe. Okay, so we really have a world at war. That is why it's called World War One. Here are some questions that we are going to answer in this unit. These are some questions we are going to consider. First of all, what are the causes of World War One? There's a few of them we're going to go over. You might know a couple already, such as the assassination of Franz Ferdinand. But there are some other really big issues and causes that sort of make this environment, which is perfect for war. We're going to talk about how and where was World War I fought. We're going to talk about the different fronts. If you know that word, a front is sort of where a battle is held. And there are a few of those going on. We're going to talk about how it was fought. We're going to talk about mustard gas. We're going to talk about trenches. We're going to talk about the equipment that is used, the people that were forced into it. We will talk about the Navy and invention of the Air Force and a whole bunch of things. So that's going to be really exciting for us, I think. The third question on this list is, how did World War I affect life on the home front? So the home front would be places like Britain, America, Australia, where people aren't near battle, but they are sort of holding the fort down at home. They're contributing money. They are working there, building, making supplies for war. And that's the first time that there is something that is called a home front. And the last question that is super important, especially because World War I was fought 100 years ago. This is called the centennial, so it's kind of an exciting time to study this because people are thinking about World War I right now. So we are going to talk about how World War I is remembered, how it is commemorated, and that part really fascinates me. As you know, I run that blog, so we'll be talking a lot about that, and that's important for us to learn about. All right, this slide, you do not have to write this slide down. I can hear your sigh of relief as this is a big one, but this is exciting. Why do we study World War I? Sometimes people or I've had students who say, oh, this is so boring, why do we need to learn this? But every historical event that we learn about is important. And World War I is important for these reasons. I'll go over quickly. World War I was a catalyst for great change. And I've bolded that word for you because I'm not sure if you know what it means, but it just means it allowed for great change to happen. And these bullet points tell us why. The first one here says the map of Europe had to be redrawn by 1919. So the war ends in 1918, and then we have this huge peace conference that takes place. We have large empires that are dissolved, that are completely gone now. And new countries are actually being formed. Okay, so we actually have men who have to sit down in this conference. They have to decide how Europe is going to change. Countries are no longer, empires are no longer together. We have the Austro-Hungarian Empire, that's gone. The Ottoman Empire, that's gone. And we have new countries being formed. That's the first time this has ever really happened. Another a big thing that happened out of World War I, another big thing that came out was that nations that were involved in the fighting, such as Britain, such as Germany, could not afford to keep fighting. It was very expensive to produce everything that's needed for war, to keep your soldiers healthy and fed, and things like that. They had to borrow money. They couldn't go to the bank because their own banks were broke. So countries had to go to different countries and say, "Hey, can I borrow some money, please?" Just like you might go to your parents on a Friday night to get money for the movies. And one of the countries that had the most money at the time was the USA. And because they have all this money, and every other country has spent all their money, that allows US to become this huge, mega powerful country that we know it to be today. So this is the first time when the United States is recognized as this really powerful country. So World War I really changes the United States. Another important thing that came out of World War I is that we have Soviet Russia. So halfway through the war, we have this huge revolution in Russia, and they decide to adopt communism. And this is a huge issue that lasts for basically the entire 20th century. So communism is really present during this time. Okay, and this last one, which I've already mentioned about a little bit, is that we have the Treaty of Versailles, which is signed, and because of this, it allows for other events to take place because there's a lot of really angry people. A lot of Germans weren't happy with this Treaty of Versailles. And that allows for certain people to come to power. Spoiler alert, someone like Adolf Hitler is able to come in afterwards and say, "Hey, I can make Germany a really great country again if you trust me." Okay? So because of how World War I ended, the events of it caused a lot of change. So World War I is a really important topic to study. Alright, so that is the end of this video. Go take a break, come back and watch the second part where I have a short task for you. Alright guys, see you in a minute.